Welcome to this presentation on a useful research and planning tool to explore various costs and methods for financing someone's continuing education, called the FAFSA Forecaster. The sequence of this presentation is as shown. Let's start with introductions. This presentation is part of a series on funding higher education provided by United Way of the Quad Cities area. I'm John Cook, a volunteer and FAFSA navigator. I'm going to keep this presentation moving along. Please feel free at any time to pause or replay the video in order to review the sections that catch your interest. Why the FAFSA Forecaster? Why am I so excited about this planning tool? The official description from the U.S. Department of Education. The FAFSA Forecaster is the estimator of eligibility for federal, need-based financial assistance. Sounds boring. What's in it for me? Will it answer my questions? What do various schools cost? How can I practice for the FAFSA? I want to test fire it. For what federal financial aid might I or my family member qualify? What kind of school assistance are we talking about? I'm glad you asked. The FAFSA Forecaster helps you start working the problem. Like many American students and families, you're trying to figure out the formula of what are the total school expenses for a year. Then, if you apply the money you have on hand for education, this should lead you to the answer of what monies are still needed, your total financial need. Once you know your total financial need, you would then apply what you might receive in federal student aid so you can see where you are at and if you still need more education monies. The FAFSA Forecaster is here to help you work the problem. Let's discuss what the FAFSA Forecaster does and what's in it. First, let's look at what are the types of federal student aid being discussed. From the Federal Student Aid website, with the address showed on the screen, are the three types: grants, loans, and work-study opportunities. Now for what is in the FAFSA Forecaster. There is a brief introduction and explanation. On the right are the instructions, guidance, and hints, plus on the lower left is the Need Help button. In the body is the initial question, and when you have answered the initial question, in the lower right is the Submit button to continue. After you answer the initial question, the FAFSA Forecaster just keeps giving you decision information, fill-in blanks for the students and parents if needed, description, and finances. After all of the initial questions are answered, you get the prompt that the forecaster is ready to start doing some comparisons. In the prompt are two cautionary notes. A reminder that this is just a snapshot, a ballpark estimate, and only for the federal level of assistance. Plus a reminder that this is just an estimate and the actual answers with your actual FAFSA financial aid process may vary from what you learned in this forecaster planning tool. The next section is on exploring the various schools and estimating school costs. The description in the body of the forecaster describes that when you provide your total end cost estimate of education for the year, the forecaster will tell you if you have enough funds to cover your college costs. You may put in the name of the school each time you explore different schools, but it is not necessary. What is necessary is your dollar amount of estimated total costs for the year. I'll offer up two methods to estimate these costs. One is very simple, and the next is progressively more complex, depending upon your desires at the time. The first method is a very simple ballpark estimate provided at the website College Scorecard. The web address is as shown on the screen. It may also be accessed at the bottom of the main FAFSA webpage. Once there, in the Find School search function, find your candidate schools by the various methods. For each school, you get a simple scorecard. For this example, I've used Western Illinois University in Macomb, Illinois. As part of the scorecard is the school's simplified cost estimate. You can use this initial simple estimate in the FAFSA Forecaster. However, if you desire to do a more deliberate research on the costs, you have access to the Department of Education's school statistical data. At the bottom of the forecaster screen for college cost estimation is access to the College Navigator. Click on the College Navigator title, and you have jumped to the web page of the U.S. Department of Education's National Center for Education Statistics, the College Navigator. At the left is a wide variety of ways of selecting schools. Click on the Show Results to develop your list of schools to research, and I've selected St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa, as I am an adjunct instructor in the management department of their College of Business. You get a description of the school and a menu of topics to explore of the school's statistical data. Let's expand the menu, and at the top is the financial data. Let's review some example information for a first-year undergraduate student. On the left are various topics to consider, such as tuition and fees, books and supplies, plus a variety of living arrangements on and off campus. The various costs are laid out over the previous 3 years and a calculation on inflation of prices. You can use this information to come up with your own future costs to put in the forecaster based on your estimate of your expenses matching your personal situation. Now you have your estimated cost for a year to put into the FAFSA Forecaster. We can use the results of our research, whether it was the simple ballpark estimate or more detailed statistical research, and we have our forecaster estimate of total financial need. As you keep scrolling down the forecaster, based upon your student and parent information from the first steps, it has filled in your estimated federal financial aid for grants and scholarship, work study, and student loans. Your answers on your situation yielded this estimate in federal financial aid. We are answering some of your questions, aren't we? Time to hit the calculate button and look at the results. Next comes your calculated results. On the right, the college cost you entered, the total of federal level financial aid available to the student, and the difference of subtracting the estimated aid from the estimated costs. Looks like more money will be needed beyond what the student is going to receive in federal aid. Listed on the left is a code for the Expected Family Contribution, or EFC. As you read the instructions, the financial aid counselors at each school can explain more about the EFC. The forecaster reminds us to look for other sources of funding beyond just federal level financial aid. The FAFSA Forecaster then reminds the user of parent loans, using personal funds and savings, and the tax credits associated with higher education. Earlier in the FAFSA Forecaster's aid calculations, we are reminded to search for and receive state level and school level assistance, plus need and merit-based scholarships. Every year, you may be searching for and collecting school financial assistance from a wide variety of sources. Your FAFSA navigators have another video to explain more about searching through the total scope of education financial assistance. In YouTube, search for the title, Financing Your Higher Education. Use the whole hand approach. Well, we did one run in the forecaster with one school. Don't stop. Keep exploring your options. Compare other schools and living arrangements. In this example, I'm going to use Blackhawk Community College throughout the Illinois side of the Quad Cities. Many of my family members have attended and graduated from Blackhawk. Using either of the previous websites, you can look up the estimated annual costs and develop your ballpark estimate of the future annual expenses. Run the calculations again, and you may find a very different federal financial aid picture. The FAFSA Forecaster enables you to keep running calculations and estimates as you go through your research and planning for your continuing education. You are also encouraged to visit the school's websites for their admissions and financial aid data, and also to look up the contact information for the school's financial aid offices. Wow! Think what we've just been given for free. A very useful research and planning tool for financing someone's continuing education. Thank you to the team at the Department of Education for this gift. But wait, there's one more question to answer. Where do we get this free, useful research and planning tool? Where do we find our FAFSA Forecaster? First, a joke. The best place to hide something is in plain view, as it blends in with everything else. The FAFSA Forecaster can be reached on the internet in at least 6 different methods that I found. Start the note-taking and put on your hiking boots. Here we go. The first 2 methods are at the main FAFSA website. Method number 1 is found on this main FAFSA website, but be sure to scroll way down below the main login portion to the bottom for the direct jump to the FAFSA Forecaster, the Federal Student Aid Estimation Tool. Also on this page is the direct link to the college scorecard discussed previously. Both are located way under the FAFSA login at the bottom of the main FAFSA website. The second method is actually inside the college scorecard. Click on the college scorecard, and once you are into the college scorecard page, it starts with the Find Schools function. Scroll down the page past Find Schools to the Paying for College section. The second option is Calculate Your Aid, and this will jump you to the FAFSA Forecaster. That's method number 2. Note again that the college scorecard has its own web address. So those are 2 methods of the 6, both found at the bottom of the main FAFSA website. Now for the third and fourth methods to access the FAFSA Forecaster, and these are located at the Student Aid website. Now we are at the Department of Education's website, studentaid.ed.gov, for the third and fourth methods to find the FAFSA Forecaster. The third method is in the More Info section in the middle right of the home page. Let's blow up the More Info list and look at its interesting topics. Of most interest to us now are the resources. The fourth method is the fourth main topic on the home page, How do I apply for aid? These are the 2 sections we'll be using for our research, calculations, estimations, and use at studentaid.ed.gov. Let's explore access to the FAFSA Forecaster, starting with resources. When we click on the word resources, we jump to the resources web page. We have a list of resources sections, and let's blow up our list. We can find our resources for the forecaster in the second major section on FAFSA information. Scroll down the resources until you get to the section on Web Pages and Tools. There you will find the third method as a web page link. Method number 4 is, again, at the main page of the Department of Education's excellent webpage for student aid. Select the fourth option on How do I apply for aid? At the How do I apply for aid main page, look in the lower right for Quick Links. In the Quick Links menu, the first option is Estimate Your Aid. Click on Estimate Your Aid, and at the new web page, look in the lower left, and there is a direct link to the FAFSA Forecaster. That's the third and fourth methods, with both found at studentaid.ed.gov. 4 methods done and 2 to go. Number 5. Go to the FAFSA Forecaster directly. The web address is as shown on the screen. Plus, our method number 6, of course, is that you may search for it using your favorite search engine. As they say, the best place to hide something is in plain view. There are probably more ways to access the FAFSA Forecaster, but I'll let you discover them, and please do share what you find out. Let's wrap up this presentation on the FAFSA Forecaster. Hopefully, this orientation of the FAFSA Forecaster has provided to you a needed tool to answer your questions of why, what, and where. For researching school costs, we introduced 2 websites and also encourage you to look at the school's websites themselves. You can now rehearse and test fire your answers to the FAFSA itself using the Forecaster. You won't have a real answer until you submit your actual FAFSA, but the Forecaster is a great way to prepare. The Forecaster will give you a ballpark estimate of the federal financial aid that you may qualify for based upon the summary data that you provided. And we've introduced various kinds of school assistance. All this through the FAFSA Forecaster. Displayed here are the references and referrals used in this presentation. Displayed here are some notes for you to read, plus my email address if you have questions or have a suggestion to improve this presentation. Thank you for your time and kind attention. As a United Way FAFSA navigator, it has been my pleasure to provide to you this orientation on the FAFSA Forecaster.